Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of NC-17. My name is Josh, and today with us we have actor and musician Aaron Clark. How are you doing today?
Doing good, man. How are you?
I'm pretty good, pretty good. Uh, so before we get into the movie, because you were in Twisted Gables from Horrorland Media and Eight Times Productions, give a little bit of background of childhood growing up, and was music and movies always something you wanted to do?
Yeah, man. I just grew up in Kentucky. Grew up out in Hardin, Kentucky. It's the middle of nowhere. Went to school in a different place because it was too small. And I grew up wanting to be a musician. Probably, I knew that around the time I was 9, and really actually started to dig into it between like 12 and 14, something like that. Started playing in bands. I was in band in middle school and high school, but I was playing in bands outside of that, doing a bunch of punk stuff, metal stuff, that kind of thing. And acting was never a thing that I really thought about up until like it was probably 7 or 8 years ago. I did a film called The Automaton. It was a short film, and essentially all I did in that movie was they needed a guy like the Automaton was a machine, and he was like a mass murderer kind of thing, and but they needed to actually have him like it was kind of a film where you never saw the killer kind of thing, and so they needed him in one scene to like show somebody, and they're like, "You're tall and you can be scary," so I put the whole mask on and the thing, and I basically just like chased someone down a hallway, and I grabbed him and I screamed at them that I'm the automaton, and that was it. you know. Uh, so, but I've always been into horror films. Not as probably as much as some of the other people who've been in this film because they're like next level stuff. Like you got
Oh yeah.
I do, but I've always been into film and horror specifically. So whenever Justin kind of gave me the opportunity, I was like, hell yeah, man! Like I would love to do that. That would be super cool. So
Oh yeah. So I've had a number of people from Twisted Gables on the show. We haven't spoiled anything yet, which is a good thing because I want people to be surprised. Uh, can you go a little bit without spoiling anything into your character and like just a background, kind of?
sure. So I won't give names yet or anything necessarily, but I know you've had Lex on. I've seen his. And he plays my brother, and a lot of the what I kind of built the character off of is kind of feeding off his energy. We talked about it in the beginning, and he's like, if I say something, just go with it. And I was like, you got it, man. And he kind of did that with me too. So we kind of built the dynamic of your two brothers, and
Oh yeah.
the older brother, he picks on me a lot, that kind of thing. Thinks I'm stupid. He's like, why'd you do it this way? That kind of and vice versa. I just try to give it back to him when I can, but it's never enough because I'm the little brother kind of thing. I kind of built the character off like once I met Lex, like huge dude. He's I think Tennessee's fourth strongest man. Like he's placed number 4, and I think he's going for number 1 pretty soon.
Oh
And we bonded over that kind of the fact like he does strongman stuff. I've dabbled that a little bit. I power lift that kind of thing. And but I'm significantly smaller than he is, and so I tried to play my character where like he's the big guy, like he is the Hulk, like he's the muscle, he's going for it, and I'm more of the character who's like hiding. I'm waiting to pounce on somebody. Like I sneak into places, get around stuff. And but when it comes to doing like the brutal shit, like I'll get in on it. But I always don't do it to Lex's characters is standard. That kind of thing. So.
oh yeah. So with the movie being filmed and already done and able to bought on Horrorland Media dot square dot site. I'm getting better at that.
Yep.
uh, what would you say would be, I mean, because I know everyone wants their movies to exceed their expectations, but like when you guys do your cast premiere and everything like that, what are your hopes once it gets out to the masses? What are your hopes?
I'm hoping people see it and they love it. And it's an independent film, something that I'm a big supporter of, and I want it to be something that's shared around, that really gets like Justin and Lee and everybody, Carl, the kind of attention that they deserve, because they do really great work. They're really great friends, and I think that if they were able to get this out there and really do more, I think it'd be so encouraging. And so I want people to see it and be like, wow, like that's an independent film. That's something that, somebody made and was like, holy shit, that was brutal. That was something that was worth watching and showing to my friends, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah. So you also being a musician, what would you say would be like a killer soundtrack to your horror movie? Like if you were to put out a horror movie, what would be your killer soundtrack?
Oh man. Ooh, there would be songs in there by first I would go with like Kubla Khan. They've got some really heavy stuff like Ant Pile. Man, there would probably like 20 songs I can name by them. I would definitely put in stuff that knocked loose, especially some of their later stuff. Like really scary heavy metal kind of things. And that's kind of like in the hardcore genre. But if it went more like death metal, there's a lot of stuff in there too that I'd put by like White Scrounge, things like that. That would be super sick. Stuff that's just like really intense and has like that moment where it drops. Like you can have that silence, you can have that calm before the storm kind of thing that really rises back up. And when it does, it really fucking punches you. Like something that really.
Oh yeah. So how long have you been like? Are you in a band?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I've been playing music. This is a hard one to think of. Probably like years, 21 years, something like that. When I first graduated high school, I did college like part time, but I was mostly on the road. So I went with my band then, and that band was called Crowned. We were a metal band. I was the vocalist, and we toured, around the United States, did some cool shit. Then I came back, got back in college, did some other stuff, formed some other bands. I did several projects in between then, but right now I'm now back in Crowned. We got back together after like 10 years. And we're just putting stuff out, and you can actually hear one of our songs. It doesn't have my vocals on it. We just did an instrumental. Is actually in the movie.
Okay.
And then I have another band. It's called Maywin, and it's like post-hardcore with like some shoegaze stuff, kind of. But it has heavy parts too. And we actually have a song in Twisted Gables, and we also have a song in Mother Shucker because I was randomly in Mother Shucker. you know.
All right. So seeing Mother Shucker, I'm obsessed with that movie. If that makes sense, you know.
Awesome.
uh, I've actually watched it so many times. I pretty much know it by heart, but I'm not gonna quote nothing.
That's
So would you say the brief part you had in Mother Sucker compared to this part you have in here, is it night and day?
yes and no. On camera, I would call it night and day, but off camera, definitely not. On camera, because I got that role just kind of out of nowhere. Justin and I met because we worked at the same place here in Murray, and we were on two different teams at that company, and I noticed that he did really well. So I like kept bugging him and encouraging him to apply for my team. So he came to work for me over there for a while, and we kind of bonded over wrestling, and it was mostly wrestling and horror films, honestly. We kind of bonded over those things, and he left, and I hadn't seen him in a while, and he said, "Hey man," he texted me like the day before. He's like, "Hey man, the guy that I've got coming in, he can't actually shoot tomorrow. We've got to shoot. Would you be willing to come in and kind of do it?" I was like, "Yeah, that sounds awesome." So, it was kind of out of the blue, out of nowhere. But as far as filming with all of them, I filmed. I think that day it was Justin and Lee, Carl, Eric. And I went out there, just did a short scene, but they made it super comfortable and really fun. So behind the camera, it was awesome. On camera, it was just kind of like improv. Whenever I get out there, here's some bass lines, that you have, kind of go off that, and I read over them with Eric a little bit. Um, and we kind of did that scene, and then the next part, which was the really fun part. If people haven't seen Mother Chucker, I won't ruin it or anything. I got to improv a lot of that, but this one was a little different. There's a lot more structure. Lee and Justin really put a lot of time and effort into it, and so did Carl and several other people, especially everyone in the cast.
Uh,
There was a whole script. We went over. Did table reads. I came to one that only had like a few people, but I got to go everything, and the shoots, were longer because I was just out there for like an afternoon the first time. The next couple times, we're out there for like 10 hours plus. Filming, getting stuff done, and on camera, having to be more serious is not something that I've had to do. But I kind of drew off of how I act on stage when I do metal performances, because that's not the only thing I do. But I kind of pulled off of that, like keeping that face, and it was interesting trying to get in there and feed off people more. because it was really just me feeding off a handful of people. But we do one scene, I'm with Lex and other people, and like this other scene, I'm with Sam, that kind of thing, and just really reading the room. So on camera, it was a night and day difference, but behind the camera, everything was awesome. People were having fun. Everybody was willing to be there, even during times where it was raining or it was cold. We had a great time.
Yeah. Speaking of the cold, everyone has mentioned how cold it was during the barn scenes.
Yeah.
What is your take on the barn scenes?
Man, I think the barn scenes are going to be dope. Again, I've seen, what they've cut in that kind of thing, but I haven't seen the movie yet. We're doing the cast March 8th, I think is what that is. But
Yeah.
I think they're going to be awesome. And I think it was definitely worth putting in the effort, even after having to get out there and figure out the lighting and do all the things, and I was in a cutoff the majority of the time. I was putting my jacket back on in between scenes because I was too cold, dog. Lex didn't. He stayed with nah, man, like I got to put this back on. So, but
Uh,
he supported us and brought a lot of stuff out there. They had like a heater that they were trying to generate for us, and they had food, and we were just hanging out and trying to keep it lively. And I think that was awesome that people were willing to do that.
oh yeah. So going from Mother Sucker, which was I'm not going to say a small film, but just kind of like smaller in comparison to Twisted Gables.
Sure.
Uh, would you say the transition was like was it a smooth transition from Mother Sucker to Twisted Gables, or was there like, okay, ha ha ha, and over here it's serious?
Yeah, I think it was relatively smooth, at least on our end. I didn't get to see a lot of the stuff behind the scenes when we weren't there with like Justin Lee and Carl and everybody working on the stuff. So I think, they probably had hiccups that I'm not entirely sure of, but, they made it really smooth for us coming through, and I think the tone shift, of the movies, I think there was only hiccups in the fact that everybody really liked each other. And so there was a lot of funny shit that was happening. We had to like stop it so we could get things shot. It
Oh
was
yeah,
funny stuff. Devin's in the movie and Ty and a bunch of other people. They're just really funny, and so they make it hard. But the having to get serious and get stuff done. I think that was kind of it wasn't a sticking point at all. I don't think really. It was just like we had to remind ourselves get there.
oh yeah. So I haven't seen Twisted Gables yet, which is cool because it's kind of like I'm the type of person I will accidentally spoil something, so it's a good thing I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
But I want to say that the fact that all right, so Mother Sucker came out last year,
Yeah.
Twisted Gables this year. The time span between the two releases seems like a small window, but with you being a musician and filming and stuff like that, is your window like small, or is your window? Did you guys work around each other?
Yeah, we definitely worked around each other. Like I had a lot of stuff going on, and I usually do. We book shows. For example, they really good about being in this big group text, and they know that I don't do that well. Having to look and stuff. I hadn't responded to anything. They're like, "Hey, man, just checking in," that kind of thing, and I could respond back. But a good example of us working around each other was like the first day. I think we were doing like the first big long shoot. I was playing a festival all the way in South Bend, Indiana. So for me, that's about 8 or 9 hours, something like that. Drove up the day before, played the festival, stayed the night. I got done playing at around 1 a.m. And then I got up at 6 a.m. So I could drive back. I drive back, drop all the other guys off, and then I take the van all the way to Martin where we were shooting, which is like an hour and a half or something like that for me. And to get there, and we worked around that, and like I was able to work around it because everybody else was doing that day. So I was like, I will be there. I want to be committed. But on the other hand, there was a time where because I had another show, I missed one of the table reads. And so Justin and Lee were like, hey, that's okay. Let's reschedule. And so they did that table read, but they scheduled another one just for, me and a few, like a handful of people to come in. So we really had to work around each other. And I was really appreciative that they were willing to do that instead of like, nah, like you're out. So
Oh
that's
yeah. uh, so with the new people joining the cast and the Horrorland media crew, with them coming in, was obviously the landscape changed because you're adding more people.
Yeah.
But it seems like every single person is just like, one, they're all happy to be there and do what they can to make sure that Horrorland Media and the movies get put out there. Was there any specific moment that you was like, wow, this might be too big of an undertaking, or no?
No, not really. And the interesting thing is like I barely know most of those people. They all kind of are interconnected with Justin and Lee and kind of the independent wrestling scene out there, which I go to. Like I haven't been in a while, and I probably should go. Because especially in Paris. But I've seen a lot of those guys that are in the movie. I've seen them wrestle for like a number of times, that kind of thing. But I've never known them personally. And the other cast members are kind of people that they knew. So I haven't got to interconnect with them a lot. But like everybody was so nice and so welcoming, and the cast does such a good job of just like everybody's there. And I think the reason being that is that Justin and Lee support themselves, like surround themselves with really good people. But I understand that did not answer your question. So I'll ask the question again, I'll answer it this time.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. Uh, let's talk a minute about Justin. He's a very busy man.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Uh, I mean, one, he's a father and a husband.
Yeah.
Two, he's got a 9 to 5,
Yeah.
and three, he's writing, directing, editing, and I mean, to do all this in a span of whatever amount of time he has, it's kind of like he wants to put out his opus, which is not out yet. I don't
Sure.
think.
Okay.
Would you say that all the time constraints that he has, and I'm gonna ask him too because him and Lee are gonna come uh, on their own show. But would you say that with all the time and everything that he's like handling it well, or do you see sometimes he's like got to take a step back?
Yeah, I think they handle it with a lot of aplomb. Like they're really good at like keeping time managed. If something needs to change, they change things on the fly. I think there's times where Justin probably got frustrated just because of like what's happening. Not necessarily in the scene, but like the location. Things like that. But he did a really good job of like keeping his cool, making sure that like okay, this is frustrating for me, but we can work around this. And I think Lee helped a lot with that too. She kind of took care of everybody, made sure what was going on, that kind of thing. So they're both very dedicated people, and the amount of time they put into it outside of just like their normal like 9 to 5 jobs and the things that they do is insane. I can't imagine doing that. I mean, I do that as a musician, but that's something like I've done my whole life, and it's just like normal to me. I'm used to that, and but it doesn't require me to like sit at home and write and think and do that kind of stuff. I just have to practice playing. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's not the same kind of thing. It's a lot of mental fortitude to have to do that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah. Uh, so in Twisted Gables, is there a specific scene that, without spoiling anything, that you would say would be your favorite scene?
Yeah. Um, I think there's two. I've got two that are tied. One is in the barn, and that's all I can describe. The other one is in a house, and I will say that it was fun doing that scene with Lex and Sam. Doing those things was cool. Yeah.
Oh, oh yeah. Uh, so in the trailer, we see you briefly. Not gonna. They gotta watch the trailer because I don't want to ruin it.
Yeah.
But I can tell it's you, and just the way that, like, I'm talking to you now, and then your character. I mean, you got to change for your character.
Right.
Do you and being a musician, that should come relatively easy for you, or was it difficult in some points?
No, it's actually pretty easy for me. That's something that I've done for a long time. I don't do it as much as in the band that I tour with now, or that I play with now, Maywin. But when I was in Crown, it was a thing that I turned on and off a lot because I'm a really like chill just kind of laid back guy. Like I'm relatively positive and pretty happy. But in that scene, when you're doing metal, you're the vocalist. The goal is to be scary, be intimidating, and do that kind of thing. And so that was the easy part for me to turn it on when I got there. The only part that I would say that was difficult was that uh, very rarely did I get shut down from that mode. But then when I did, like whenever something stupid happened, and I don't know if they'll include the bloopers or not on the end of it. Really hope there's one thing that I did that took me out of it really hard, and when you see it, you'll probably know what it is.
All right.
I did something, and so like that's an example. Whenever I got out of it, it took me a minute to get back in it, just because I was like, it was too funny.
All right. Uh, so I know that in media now, especially movies, there's so much CGI, you know? I mean, it's cool and all, but do you prefer practical over CGI or vice versa?
I prefer practice for sure.
Practical?
Yeah, absolutely. Growing up in a time, in the '90s, I really loved a lot of '90s kind of things, and where practical effects were much bigger, and that kind of thing. And that's something that I've always stood by. I do think there are times for CGI where it's like that works really well, and that's something that's cool, but mostly practical effects. My favorite movie of all time is The Thing. It's so great, and like a lot of the practical effects in there are just nuts, that kind of thing, and it really brings me into the movie more. So I think that's something that I'll always prefer anytime practical.
Oh yeah. Uh, when you're not filming when you weren't filming for Twisted Gables, I've asked quite a few people this. Was there, and I think I already know the answer, was there shenanigans going on behind the scenes while not filming that kind of just like made you guys kind of come together more?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There was a lot of camaraderie, that kind of thing, where people would get together, and there was a lot of times where we were all on set, but not everybody was filming. Obviously, sitting behind, so there was always like laughing and stuff, and we had to walk away, be farther away, making too much noise, hanging out, that kind of thing. And so people really came together, and I felt very welcomed, even though I didn't know everybody. And so I think there was a lot of shenanigans. Yeah, I would say that. Even on screen sometimes, they would just like roll with it, and we would be trying to take something serious, and then it would just devolve into something way funnier than it probably needed to be. But it was always a good time. Yeah.
All right. So in Mother Sucker, there was one very specific line that threw me, and that was when Carl Cobb said, "What in the hillbilly Barbie bullshit is this?"
Yeah.
I mean, I heard that line and I think I died laughing. But
Yeah.
was is there a even though this is a more serious movie, was there a line kind of like just throughout the movie? Was there one specific line that kind of like made for a heartwarming moment or something that wasn't intense?
Yeah, I think there is a moment. There's a couple of them that I can think that are actually, I wouldn't know that they are sentimental moments. I don't know if I would call them heartwarming, but they're sentimental moments that happened. There's a portion of the movie that we shoot at a bar, and there's some stuff that happens outside of there that I think, is really passionate, that people can really get into. And then there's a couple of those too in the barn scene, that kind of thing. But there's also lighthearted moments too, where some funny things do happen. The scene I was talking about earlier in the house, there's some there that
Yeah.
are fun, that I think people will really enjoy. So it gives you a good balance.
Oh yeah. All right. So asking everybody all these questions, I specifically, because you're a musician, specifically saved this one question for you.
Okay.
Can you count how many F bombs are dropped in the movie?
Can I count normally? Uh, Sometimes, yeah. Like usually, I can keep count of that. That's something that comes around. I don't normally try, but if someone's to ask me, maybe. But it's intentional. Otherwise, I wouldn't pay attention. But yeah, definitely, it would be fun. And I don't know how many were dropped in Twisted Gables, but enough.
Oh
There's a
yeah,
lot.
yeah. I know that I'm weird like that. Like I'll watch a movie and I'll be like, okay, cool, entertainment. Now I'm gonna watch it the second time to see what I missed. Every now and then, it's like I'll go back just to one enjoy the film again, like Mother Shucker. It's in there, but there are certain moments in movies that you can tell the tide is turning.
Sure.
With Twisted Gables, would you say that there's a definite just one scene that the shit's about to happen?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think the movie in the beginning kind of builds to something. There's a lot of tension that's coming from right at the beginning, and then there's a moment in the movie where you're like, okay, well now shit's about to go down. So yeah, definitely, definitely.
Right. When talking with Lex, he says that there are certain things in this that was like really brutal and showed a lot of brutality.
Yeah,
I see the trailer, and the thing that keeps popping in my head is when she smacked the hellfire out of him.
yeah,
I'm like, Jesus. And then she's like, it was just fingers. And then, he's like, oh, I told her to go ahead and do it. I'm like, that was probably like, to me, watching it, I'm like, I wouldn't want to get smacked like that. Was you on set for that scene or no?
yeah, yeah. I was standing back behind, and when it happened, just whenever it cut off, everyone was like, "Oh shit!" Like, everybody was crowded around, like it was like a schoolyard fight. Like everybody was like, "Fight!" Come. It was nuts. Like we heard like the pop after it, and we were just like it echoed, like so yeah.
All right. Is there anything that you haven't said to Justin or Lee or just some of your castmates or crew members that you haven't said already? Is there anything that you'd like to let them know or say now?
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for allowing me to be a part of the opportunity, and for everybody that here. I have a hard time with names. I've got like half of them, if not more, down now. But so I want to list everybody, that kind of thing. But everybody was so welcoming. I want to tell them thank you, and I hope we get to do it together again sometime. I'm not sure if they're wanting to take a break for a little bit, or if they want to keep chugging along. But if I can make it work in my schedule, I want to make it happen. And just as a specific shout out to Justin, at the whenever we do meet up for the cast party, I will bring you your mask back because I accidentally came home with that in my van. So go get it.
uh, what advice would you give to somebody who's wanting to break into the entertainment field, regardless if it's acting, music, producing, whatever?
Man, it's about making connections. That's the big thing. I would have never gotten into acting if I didn't know Justin, somebody who's getting ready to put that in. But I network all the as far as music stuff. We're talking to other bands constantly in different parts of the United States. But like, hey, do you know a venue down here you can set up? Would you be willing to play as a local? And anytime we play like big festivals, we're talking to all the other bands, we're talking to the promoters, all these other people. So I think it's really about making those connections and then being very very intentional with those connections. Being somebody who's really willing to follow up. If you make that connection and you're trying to get this person to help you with something, make sure you follow back up with that kind of thing.
All right. So you say you like practical effects, and you mentioned that The Thing is your favorite movie of all time. If you were cast in The Thing back then, what character would you want to be?
Oh man, I can't make that decision, dude. I have no idea. Let me say this. This is gonna be a weird pick, but I want to be the dog, or at least I'm play out as the dog because in the beginning you have no idea, right?
Yeah.
And I want to be the reason that like the catalyst that the next time someone goes back and watches that movie, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I should have known like the entire time from the beginning," that kind of thing. So I think that would be cool. I don't think I could be any of the people. I'm not talented enough, probably. But man, if I was gonna pick, I think that would be my weird pick, the dog.
I've asked that question to a lot of people, and I can honestly say you're the first one to say the dog, which is awesome. So we got about 9 minutes left. With Twisted Gables, everybody I've spoken with so far has raved about it, so it's making me more anticipated to see it. What would you say is going to be the crowning achievement of the movie? Would it be the beginning, the middle, the end, or the movie as a whole?
I think it would be the movie as a whole. I think it's going to be something that people will want to pay attention from beginning to end. But if I was going to pick a specific part of the movie, I do think it would be the end is going to be the crowning achievement over the three parts, just because that's when, man, I can't say a whole lot. That's when a lot of stuff. That's when the big stuff that people are going to be like, that's what I came for, kind of thing. That's the payoff, the release. I think that's going to be the crowning achievement for sure.
Oh yeah. So with watching a trailer, and I've watched the trailer about 60 times now. I'm weird, but
Man, that's awesome.
uh, would you say that the movie is a revenge movie, a justice movie, or a retribution movie?
A really solid question. I would say that it is a movie.
Yeah.
Um, Without saying a whole lot, I think some people could view it as all three in a certain way, depending on how you look at it, the morality you think that comes from the movie. But to me, I would say justice.
Justice. Yeah. That's awesome. So with everyone, like get ready for the premiere, the cast premiere and everything like that. When you all get together, I'm thinking it's going to be just like a big ass family reunion.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
uh, especially with Lex there. That dude's fucking huge.
yeah,
Like I mean, I only seen him out here and on TV, and I'm like, I still don't want to meet that dude in a dark alley.
yeah. Definitely not.
So here's a question I wanted to ask you about your character. So since you play the younger brother, the little brother per se,
Hmm.
would you say that there was a specific moment in time where the little brother was like to the big brother, "Hey, chill the fuck out"?
Yeah. It came. There was a one specific moment that was kind of improv between us. That I think that's where it came out, where he kind of things had built up, and he just kind of lashed out. And the Lex's character just brushed it off. It's like he finally gets to a point where he says something, and he's upset, and he's just like, whatever. So, but yeah, like I said, they bicker back and forth. But there's one point where my character kind of lashes out at Lex's character, and you can tell like that was the moment. And stop.
Oh,
Like,
uh, so we got about what 6 minutes. So in the movie, Jenny plays your mom.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Uh, would you say that her character is kind of like the main star, or would you say she's one of the most important parts of the movie?
I would say she is definitely one of the most important characters in the movie for sure. I would say that she plays the main role. So I would say I would consider her to be the main star, but there is other roles, like other supporting roles that are, I say, equally as important, that may have more or less, kind of thing. So I would definitely say she is the main character, even if she's not in as much as some of the other characters, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Uh, was there? Yeah, we got. Was there a lot of blood? Was there a lot of blood?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
a lot of
Not gonna ruin anything, but yeah.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
uh, so if there was one specific moment in the movie that you could, if there was anything in the movie you would change, is there anything you would change, you personally, like for your character?
Yeah, I think there's nothing about the movie necessarily that I would change. I would have changed probably some of the stuff that I did going in, doing some of the improv. If I would have, had more foresight on the scene going in on certain parts. I think there's some things that would have changed, but it would have been minor. Like I was standing in the kind of the thing that I did, or if I would have said like slightly different, I think it would have had more impact. But as a whole, no, I wouldn't have changed anything.
Oh yeah. All right. So we got a couple minutes left. If you want to plug your socials or plug anything you want, feel free.
Sure, absolutely. Just continue to check out Horrorland Media. It's something to do. 8 Times Productions. I want to make sure that they get as much of a spotlight as I can. Thank you so much for having me on. So plugging you, even though it's on your channel, I want to make sure it's that.
Hey, thank you.
But plugging my band Maywin. You can check us out on Facebook and Instagram, TikTok, all those things, and you can check us out. We're on Spotify, Apple Music, Google Play, all the streaming places. You can check out our music. It's Maewyn, and then my other band, Crowned. It's just Crowned. Crowned. We're on Spotify, all those things. We've got the same socials, so feel free to check that stuff out.
All right. All right. So in closing, I will say this. Aaron, it has been an honor. It has been a pleasure. Uh, I'm honestly going to say, I don't know if you watch Key and Pill, but every time I see the name Aaron, it's like I want to say Aaron.
Yeah, time, man. Aaron's the thing.
I mean, it. I wanted to respect you, so that's why I threw it in at the end.
Yeah, I get it all the time. It's funny. I like it.
But no, I want to thank you. I want to thank Horrorland Media and 8 Times Productions for putting out awesome music, movies. Because little known fact, my wife actually has you on her Spotify, and I didn't know that until literally 30 minutes
Oh,
before the show.
sick.
So,
That's cool.
but it has been an honor and a pleasure, and you're an awesome dude, and you're more than welcome to come on NC-17 anytime. You have a home with us now, even if it's to say, hey, you got a booger in your nose.
Sick. Love it.
All right, but thank you for coming on, and everybody, until next time, stay NC-17.